Hello and welcome to the week ahead video. A couple of things to brief you on ahead of the relatively busy next 5 days. So we do have a slew of very key Tier 1 US economic releases this week. Start off with US GDP due on Wednesday. Now GDP is expected to rebound in the second quarter to as much as plus 3.0% after the very dismal weather affected Q1, which came in of course at minus 2.9%. Nonetheless, analysts have been relatively downbeat on this figure, with a number of Tier 1 investment banks downgrading their recent Q2 GDP estimates due to a couple of other releases we've seen, including the likes of trade balance, CPI, as well as other industrial production measures. So we'll see how that turns out on Wednesday, which of course also coincides with the FOMC rate decision, where the Fed are again expected to taper by $10 billion for their QE3 program, with all eyes turning to the press conference for any indications of when the Fed will in fact begin tightening their FFR. So another clue with this will likely be provided on Friday with the key non-farm payrolls release. Now that's expected at 230,000, continuing to signal some relatively strong job gains despite the picture of a lack of productivity due to negative output growth for the country as a whole. Then turning over to the geopolitical side of things, Russia is again in the full focus as further sanctions from the EU could be placed on Russia as soon as Tuesday of this week, as the EU head Van Rompuy indicated that state-backed Russian banks could potentially be shut off from European capital markets, and this alongside further sanctions against oil companies as well as certain individuals affiliated with the Ukrainian rebels is aimed at putting some further pressure back on Putin to de-escalate the situation in eastern Ukraine. Then the earnings calendar does continue in full force this week. We have key earnings updates out of the likes of ExxonMobil, Chevron, as well as Berkshire Hathaway to round off the week. So of course all eyes will be on those US earnings releases. In Europe it does also remain thick and fast in terms of corporate news flow, with a number of Tier 1 banks also due over the next 5 days. So of course we'll bring you all those releases as soon as it hits the wires, as well as any other relevant commentary to your trading. For the meantime, that's all from me. Make sure you have a fantastic 5 days of trade.